Amora Kuan Yin, Part 2, Chapter 3, It's Time Now. The message that it's time now for the spiritual revolution and awakening of the evolutionary purpose of all life seems paradoxical in a society that still values money and capital gain above human life, and survival of the fittest above integrity. Even the term evolution has had a very limited definition in this society. Webster's New World Dictionary, for example, defines evolution as the following. 1. An unfolding, opening out, or working out. A process of development, as from a simple to a complex form, or of gradual progression of change, as in social and economic structure. 2. A result or product of this, something evolved. 3a. A movement that is part of a series or pattern. B. A pattern produced or seemingly produced by such a series of movements. 4. A setting free or giving off, as of gas in a chemical reaction. 5a. The development of a species, organism, or organ from its original or primitive state to its present or specialized state. 5b. Darwinian theory. In my understanding, evolution and spirituality are inseparable, although not even remotely connected in Webster's or modern life's definitions by the average person. Most people still believe that we live on the only inhabited planet in existence, where every human or other life form lives only once and then dies forever, where the value of every life and substance is measured in dollar signs, where only the smallest number of special people are recognized by established churches, are able to communicate and experience direct relationship with God or angels or ascended masters, and where the idea of spiritual evolution to a state of self-realization, enlightenment, and ascension is considered either blasphemous or psychotic. Across the planet, there has, however, been steady growth in the number of people who have begun to believe differently. These people have awareness of or communicate with life forms from other places. They see a spiritual evolution that goes beyond this lifetime. The members of this current minority are aware of the inherent sacredness of all things. We are opening to our own God presence, as well as communication with angels, guides, and ascended masters. We awakening ones have chosen a path towards self-realization, enlightenment, and/or ascension. Though this group is still by far a small minority, we who are members of this group are growing in numbers all the time, and we are finding a louder and louder voice in this world. The paradox of spiritual evolutionaries living in a world that only wants to evolve capitalistically and financially is becoming more and more obvious. It will continue to become even more so as time marches on at an ever-accelerating pace. We have become a spiritual movement in a distinctly non-spiritual society. This spiritual evolution takes many forms. professional people leaving organized religions and or their jobs and careers to discover meditation, and then meditation being introduced into the workplace. People dropping out of society. People going off the grid. Alternative healing professions, spiritual workshops, meditation groups, worldwide prayers and meditations for peace, and most importantly, individuals like you and me who are questioning the value of even participating in a false world like this one, and are exploring the alternatives both internally and externally in our lives. We are exploring these alternatives by examining our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. We are asking questions of ourselves. Does what I do harm anyone else or the planet in any way? Would I want my thoughts or judgments to create my reality or anyone else's? Am I ready to care more about my impact on Earth, people, and other life forms than I do about getting ahead at all costs? Am I trying to control the people and circumstances of my world, or am I living in alignment with the ideals of divine sovereignty for all, a win-win instead of may the best man win? Do I genuinely care about and feel compassion for others and not merely sympathy, whether I know them or not? Do I pray for my chosen enemies, or do I curse them and wish them harm? Do I forgive, or do I blame and hold grudges? Of course, a list of questions could go on, but the point is that we all need to take accountability for how we are creating and co-creating our realities every moment of our lives with our thoughts and actions. It's time now to take a spiritual inventory and plan where we go from here. Our impact on one another and the world in general is a fact. In order to spiritually evolve on our planet from this point forth, we must take that fact into consideration and let it matter deeply. We can no longer create autonomously at the expense of others without suffering ourselves. The spiritual laws have been changing and are continuing to evolve. We are now required not only to be decent, good folk, but to live impeccably every moment of our lives. The time for slow, I'll worry about it tomorrow intellectuality is over. These comments are not intended to scare or judge or intimidate anyone, just to offer some simple spiritual reality updates. Who are the Pleiadian emissaries of light? Whenever our planet comes to the end of a major evolutionary cycle, usually every 5,200 years and every 26,000 years, the Pleiadian emissaries of light make themselves known again. They are a collective consciousness with diverse responsibilities and roles, including that of guardians of Earth and this solar system. As guardians, they come to awaken us to where we are in our evolution and to what is needed in order to take the next steps. Their information applies not only to our planet as a whole, but to individuals who have a personal connection with the Pleiadians, as I do. When my needs are genuine, my Pleiadian friends always appear. Whether my needs are for personal healing or clearing, or information, or at times simple reassurance, or perhaps for reawakening more of my memories of my purpose and service here on Earth, the Pleiadians always assist me in appropriate and meaningful ways. There are different kinds of beings with different functions within the Pleiadian emissaries of light, and they have met a wide variety of humanity's needs along the way. However, not all Pleiadians are members of this group by any means. Ra, the being who always speaks to me instructionally and philosophically, is part of what is called the Pleiadian archangelic tribes of the light. These archangels serve as wards or guardians of Earth and our solar system. There are 4 of these archangelic tribes that are delineated by the color they emanate: the golden yellow tribe, the scarlet red tribe, the clear sky blue tribe, and the gentle emerald green tribe. There are many beings of each color, and all beings of the same color share the same name and collective consciousness, and together they are all one collective consciousness. All of the golden yellow Pleiadian archangelic tribe members are called Ra, and are keepers of the divine wisdom, which is the product of all human and non-human experience. The blue beings are named Ptah, and they are the protectors and preservers of the eternal nature of life. Ma'at is the title given to the red beings, who are the spiritual warriors and guardians. They hold the energy of divine courage, which is beyond fear. There are more of the Ma'at beings incarnated on Earth at this time than any of the other 3 archangelic groups. They can choose physical incarnations to be born into, to affect the Earth on the ground. And the green beings are referred to as An-Ra, and they hold the energy of divine compassion and understanding. Some of the Pleiadian archangels make conscious links with human beings, as Ra has done with me. Others specialize in interstellar and planetary communications that are centralized in Alcyone, the great central sun of the Pleiades. Still other Pleiadian archangels work with humans during our dream times and show us possibilities beyond what we have presumed to be physical limitations. And at times they orchestrate special healing dreams to help us release the past and to continue evolving, or to find new ways of expressing ourselves that are more commensurate with who we are becoming. Now they are beginning to facilitate the remembrance and teaching of ancient healing modalities, such as the Pleiadian light work contained in chapters 5 to 14, and also Reiki. Another type of interface with humans and Earth occurred in the winter of 1992. The Pleiadian emissaries of light succeeded in making out-of-body space travel almost instantaneous between Earth and the Pleiadian cluster for those of us experiencing human lifetimes. There was a celebration at that time with a great gathering of human lightworkers and members of the Galactic Federation, including the Pleiadian emissaries of light, which I was privileged to attend. I was also blessed to experience this no time and space travel when I was taken to a planet in one of the solar systems of the Pleiades and then back to Earth. Going there and coming back, each took place in a matter of seconds. The planet I was taken to was incredible. The Pleiadians who inhabit it have created the equivalent of a planet-wide living museum where every species that has ever existed in the Milky Way galaxy, including all of those that are now extinct, still lives. For example, there are groves of tree species, each one of them that have been extinct on Earth for millions of years, living on this planet. Caretaking of this living planetary museum is one of the inhabitants' fondest responsibilities and is seen as a reward for prior lives lived well. The list of specialties in the Pleiadian archangelic tribes and the Pleiadian emissaries of light has barely been touched upon, yet I have given you a general sense of the vast range of their expertise and dedication. Another subset are the psychic surgeons and psychic healers. These are other members of the Pleiadian emissaries of light with whom I am privileged to work. However, they are not Pleiadian archangels per se, although they do work closely with them. Loosely speaking, the Pleiadian archangels are their instructors who delegate to them what is to be done. Just as we on Earth have a higher council of 12 that oversees everything in our solar system, the Pleiadian archangelic tribes of light serve that function in the Pleiades. As we have angels, guides, ascended masters, and teachers working under our higher council of 12, likewise the Pleiadians have many groups serving the Pleiadian archangels. These archangels in turn have a broader-based supreme being they serve, just as our higher council does. These hierarchies are not ones of masters and servants in the sense of some being better than and some less than. The structure is simply based on the particular essential nature of each individual being who, when reaching a certain level of evolution, deeply desire to give to and serve others. From what I have been able to understand, this desire is based on unconditional divine love that is beyond most humans' ability to even comprehend, let alone experience. It is also motivated by the same thing that keeps us growing, the desire for an end to the illusion of separation and to be reunited in oneness with Mother, Father, God-sciousness, Prime Creator, Hunab, all that is. And these higher Pleiadian beings long to be fully one with us humans again. The Pleiadian archangelic tribe names Ra, Anra, Ma'at, and Ptah may be familiar to you as they were frequently used in ancient Egypt, especially for royalty. The Egyptians were more advanced spiritually in ancient times than they are currently and than the rest of the planet is now. The Pleiadians, including the archangelic tribes, were commonly in communication with the ancient Egyptians, who were able to respond to them during the height of their spiritual advancement 5,200 years ago, approximately. The Pleiadians taught them much of their spiritual knowledge, healing practices, development of full sensory perception, and understanding of Earth's purpose within the solar system, galaxy, and far beyond. Many Pleiadians took on human bodies in ancient Egypt, as some do now, while others worked in higher dimensions with the dreamers, the seers, the healers, the priests and priestesses, and even some royalty. Their common purposes were the overall spiritual evolution of the planet and the human race, and to store enough higher wisdom here on Earth so that, when the time came for the Great Awakening, what would be needed would be here. Of course, Egypt was not the only civilization to receive such gifts. The Pleiadian Christ connection and purpose. Once, many years ago, while I was under hypnosis, I recalled a Mayan past lifetime in approximately 10 years before the Christian era, in which there was a large gathering of all the Mayan tribes to celebrate the completion of the largest pyramid ever built by our culture up until that time. It was an extremely tall structure that had an opening in the upper chamber, as well as an entryway at the base to go inside. The striking thing about this pyramid was that it was constructed of a white granite type of rock with large veins of gold, so much gold that it looked marbleized with large glimmering streaks throughout the outside of the pyramid. As the Maya were beginning their ceremony and celebration, a transparent gateway with clear crystalline steps opened in the air just above the top of the pyramid. A group of Pleiadian archangels filed out and began to walk down the pyramid, and then got to the ground to congratulate all of the people on their structural feat and share with them its true purpose. You see, the temple itself was a higher dimensional gateway and ascension chamber. We were all overjoyed to see our beloved Pleiadian friends again, who had long been our spiritual teachers and guardians. So, when the Pleiadians instructed us to go into the pyramid, we quickly lined up and went inside without hesitation. After we were all inside, I saw a spiraling ramp that went up all the way to the top, to the window-like opening at the top. Soon afterward, the sun began to shine through the opening until it lit up the interior of the whole pyramid, which was now gleaming, golden, glowing light. As the sun entered more fully, it exactly illuminated a ramp, which became overlighted with a scarlet, red, writhing, ethereal Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity. In its belly, midway down, was the face of the Christ, who said, "Now you will know me to us all." The Pleiadian archangels then explained to us that the Christ would be born in only a few years, and that we would know the timing of his birth by the appearance of a great new star in the sky. They further explained his role on earth as a representative of the cosmic Christ consciousness collective. And they told us about the 144,000, quote, chosen ones from that collective, who would be the minimum number to be awakened during his lifetime through meeting him. As an aside, during another channeling, the Christ had said to me that the term chosen ones is incorrect. It should be the ones who chose, because these people consist of beings who chose long ago to give their service to Gaia and her people by incarnating and then forgetting who they were until certain points in their evolution, and then becoming enlightened or Christed. This set the pattern of spiritual evolution for others to follow. Back to my regression, we understood that we 144,000 who had chosen ourselves to prepare Earth vibrationally for Christ's birth would either die consciously or ascend. And this was to take place beginning that day of the ceremony in Mexico in the pyramid, and continue in other places until his birth, so we could be reborn during his lifetime. At that point of explanation, many of us began to levitate. We became lighter and lighter and began to ascend until we literally vanished to the third dimensional eyes of those who chose not to ascend at that time. The face of the Christ in the belly of Quetzalcoatl said, "I shall go to prepare a place for you," and then he disappeared through the upper chamber opening while still in the belly of the sacred feathered serpent. Those of us who ascended at that time followed him out through the opening and joined him inside the belly of Quetzalcoatl by entering its mouth. The next scene of my regression took place in the halls of the fifth dimensional, fifth density City of Light, where all 144,000 of us plus the Christ were gathered, each appearing as we would in our next physical incarnation. We were previewing and planning the events to come in preparation for them. We were told that a similar appearance by Pleiadian archangels and the Christ took place in power spots all over the world: Machu Picchu, Glastonbury, Hawaii, Greece, Egypt, Africa, and Tibet. So us 144,000 ones who had chosen to be reincarnated had been gathered from all of those cultures and brought together prior to being reborn into our lives at the time of the Christ. Incidentally, one day on Mount Shasta, approximately 1.5 years prior to this hypnosis session, when I was first told about the Pleiadian Lightwork intensives I would be teaching, the Christ was so strongly present with the Pleiadians and Ra specifically that I suddenly realized there was a connection between them all. Strangely enough, I had never made the association between them in my mind prior to that time. I had only recently noticed that whenever the Pleiadians were present, so was the Christ. But I had not realized that this was anything more than a coincidence, and they certainly didn't tell me so. I had been previously told that the dolphin brain repatterning and dolphin star linking work were vital in the healing and preparation of our nervous systems for the ever-increasing frequencies of the Pleiadian light work. And I was aware that the Pleiadian light work, especially the Ka channels aspect of the work, was needed to help in the divine alignment with and embodiment of the higher self. But now the link with the Christ was unmistakable to the Pleiadians as well. If we, as the human population, are to make the quantum leap into Christ consciousness, many people will need very specific healings and openings to prepare for it. And that is the sole purpose of Pleiadian lightwork, to clear the way for the second coming of Christ en masse. Mayan, Egyptian, and Hopi prophecies, and perhaps other spiritual sources of which I am unaware, have foretold of this time, when we are to be awakened to states of mastery, enlightenment, and then Christ consciousness while still on earth in human bodies. It's time now. This great and massive awakening is precisely what Yeshua ben Yusuf came to earth to prepare us for almost 2,000 years ago. However, many avatars and enlightened masters before his lifetime, and from many different cultures, have attained the same level of cosmic Christ consciousness that he had as he was born. However, this book focuses on Christ consciousness and the Pleiadian lightwork connection because they are specifically relevant to our times, as previously mentioned, as is the Mayan calendar and culture. In order to understand the purpose of the Christ, we must also realize that Orthodox religions and the censoring of the Bible, which occurred immediately after his death and even continues to this day, nearly destroyed his true message. Yet we can still find little glimmers of it, even in the King James Version of the Bible. Be ye as perfect as I am, and you shall do even greater things than I have done, are unmistakable invitations to choose spiritual evolution, enlightenment, and ascension, and to let go of limitations on all levels. These messages are invitations to let go of the idea of a chosen few. They speak to each individual, and to realize that we are all chosen. It is up to each of us to choose whether our answer is yes or no. Yeshua ben Yusuf's torture and murder was a result of his defiance of governmental and religious rule over the common people. He taught the masses that they were equal in God's eyes to all those who pretended to be their superiors, whether they were statesmen or kings or priests or tax collectors. Yeshua taught them to respect themselves and to be willing to question authority in order to find truth. the Christ walked earth, showing the commoners that miracles happen and that miracles are natural phenomena when people are in direct alignment with their own internal God presences. He healed the sick and raised the dead, all while encouraging the onlookers to believe that they could do the same things. When he said that he was the Son of God, as is translated, he was actually telling everyone that we are all the sons and daughters of God equally and in entirety. He told people God loved them unconditionally and only wished for them to be healthy and happy. And he brought about those conditions in his followers and listeners in order to demonstrate it, which were called miracles. But again, this is an improper translation. His disciples, who were equally both men and women, by the way, were from all walks of life, common people, wealthy people, members of the goddess temples, like Mary Magdalene, who was also his wife. There were thousands of disciples by the time of the crucifixion, in addition to the 12 men spoken of in the Bible. All of these disciples had opened spiritually to their own internal gifts of healing, prophecy, and visioning. They proved what Yeshua said was true. One after another, the disciples performed miracles and even initiated others into spiritual awakening as the Christ had done for them. Additionally, much of the Christ's empowerment came through awakened women. For the first 12 years of his life, he was taught by the goddess embodied through his mother Mary and her mother Anna and many other goddesses in the Essene religion. Then, at age 12, as was the natural course for males, he went to the learned men for sharing and teaching. He traveled to Egypt and India and Tibet and England and other places, and was initiated into the mystery school teachings. He partook in death and resurrection rituals inside Egyptian pyramids. He learned dominion over his bodily functions from ancient yogic practices, as well as the secrets of longevity and conscious death and rebirth. He taught these things, as well as other things he learned naturally through communication with angels, archangels, and God, goddess, all that is, as well as direct communication from the Melchizedek collective consciousness. He shared these teachings with his disciples, who practiced these disciplines together with him and Mary Magdalene, and they all gradually awakened to their own individual degrees as well. The governments and churches at that time, exactly as they are now, were very threatened by all of this. A population of self-mastered, sovereign beings would have no need for those who proclaimed to be authorities. When humans open to our full sensory awareness and spiritual heritage, we cannot be deceived. The so-called authorities can then no longer hide behind high offices and intimidation. They are dethroned or simply never put into high positions in the first place, as when everyone has remembered our sovereign divinity, we will not create hierarchical structures. 2,000 years ago, the threat of these possible changes led to Yeshua's crucifixion, with the hopes that the populace would take that fear into their hearts as an example of what they would face if they continued pursuing such radical self-empowerment. Today, the corruption in our worldwide governments and religions is no secret. We have countless movies and books about it, yet it continues to worsen every day. Here we are, 2,000 years later, still living on a planet where the masses are controlled by the few through fear, and the masses are too scared or numb or spiritually bankrupt to do anything about it. Spiritual awakening is the only cure to this vastly spread social disease, for the magnetic pull on Earth at this time to remain powerless and socially conformist is stronger than ever. Spiritual awakening is what the Christ, with much help, began to prepare us for during his time on Earth. Now we have fully entered the prophesied age of light, a time of reawakening. In order for us to spiritually evolve as a species, we must become one mind, one human race on one living space which is alive. We must bring together the purity and the truths of all the ancient sacred spiritual teachings and the Pleiadian teachers and other celestial teachers. All people must drop their differences and divisions and separations now and choose divine love and harmony with all things and all beings, whether they be human, animal, or extraterrestrial. We must all win, 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 win from this new, true, harmonic convergence. So, as the Pleiadians and the Christ have said to me in numerous situations, it's time now. The Pleiadian emissaries of light and many other extraterrestrial groups from this galaxy and far beyond are very excited about what is happening on Earth at this time. Have you ever wondered why so many extraterrestrials, angels, and ascended masters are much more available than they used to be? Or why we are being watched and guided so carefully now? According to the Pleiadians, it is because we are at the point in our evolution here on Earth when we have an opportunity to make a tremendous paradigm shift. If accomplished, this shift will be so great that not only will it eradicate all karma for humanity, but it will eliminate all karma for our solar system, and it would set free the planets and solar systems throughout our entire galaxy and several galaxies beyond. What is so unique about us human beings and this time we are in right now? In order to answer that question, the next chapter presents information channeled to me by Ra, who is the spokesperson for the Pleiadian emissaries of light and the archangelic tribes. Ra's cosmological overview of Earth's current and future role in this galaxy will help you understand why it's time now.